He's the man who will one day carry down 2 stone tablets that say, "You shall not murder." But before that, he breaks it himself. And scripture gives it just one verse. Forget the burning bush. Forget the Red Sea splitting open. Forget the mountain shaking at Sinai. None of that has happened yet. This is years earlier, in a place nobody's watching, long before Moses is anybody at all. Picture him standing over a body in the sand. His eyes dart left, then right. Nobody's there, or so he thinks. His hands are still shaking. This is Moses, on the worst day of his life. Here's the tease. Later, a total stranger says one line about Moses that shows exactly how God saw this moment. It's not a pass. It's not a condemnation either. It's something most people never expect. Because this isn't really a story about a murder. It's a story about what God does with someone after their worst moment, before they even ask for a second chance. His name is Moses. This is Exodus, the book that hinges the whole story of Israel. Have you ever done something you can't take back? Ever gone quiet for years, sure that one failure meant you were finished, that you'd disqualified yourself for good? This isn't old news that doesn't matter anymore. It's a map for anyone who thinks their worst day is their final word. We'll walk it the way Moses lived it: palace, street, grave, wilderness, well, silence, and finally, a calling. Exodus chapter 2 verse 11 says Moses went out to his brothers and looked on their burdens. Read that again. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace. He wore royal linen. He probably spoke Egyptian before he spoke Hebrew. By every outward sign, he was Egyptian royalty. But the Bible doesn't say he looked at the slaves. It says he looked at his brothers. That word is doing a lot of work. 40 years of palace life. The best food, the best teachers, maybe even a shot at the throne, and none of it rewired what Moses knew deep down. Pharaoh's house gave him a title. His blood gave him a loyalty that never left. Here's the core of it. Moses' identity was rooted in where he came from, not in how he was raised. Upbringing shaped his manners. Origin shaped his heart. That's not just an ancient detail. Think about anyone whose loyalties don't match their resume. An adopted kid who still feels pulled toward roots they never lived. A person raised in one faith who quietly belongs to another before they ever say so out loud. Someone who climbed the career ladder but still feels most like themselves in the work they left behind. Moses looked like an Egyptian prince. But underneath the title, he already knew who his people were. And that knowledge was about to cost him everything. Moses is grown now, raised in Pharaoh's own house. But one day he goes out to his people and looks on their burdens. That's the plain text. He watches an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. Something in him snaps. Here's the part most people skip. Years before this, Moses was a baby floating in a basket on the Nile. Pharaoh's daughter pulled him out of the water. But guess who ended up raising him those first few years? His own mother, Jochebed. She nursed him, rocked him, probably sang to him, right under the nose of the very household that wanted Hebrew babies dead. And here's something history backs up. Hiring a Hebrew woman as a wet nurse for a child raised in an Egyptian royal home wasn't strange for that time. Nursing mothers were sometimes brought in from outside families, even from the people being oppressed. So this wasn't some wild loophole. It was normal enough to actually happen. Which means somewhere in those early years, before Moses could even talk, his birth mother was planting something in him. A memory, a pull, a sense of who he really was, buried under palace robes and Egyptian titles. So when Moses walks out and sees his own people suffering, it's not random sympathy. It's a seed cracking open. God had been building a rescuer inside a palace nobody expected one to come from. Zoom out for a second. Egypt is a superpower. Pharaoh is building city after city, and he needs hands to do it. Thousands of hands, working every day, no days off. Here's the detail most people skip. The slaves worked in brickyards. They mixed mud and straw, packed it into wooden molds, and baked it in the sun. Taskmasters walked the rows counting bricks, and if the count came up short, there was punishment. Not, try harder tomorrow. Punishment. Keep that image in your head, mud brick, straw, quotas, because it comes back later as the picture of everything freedom is not. Here's the part scripture says plainly. Pharaoh looked at this slave population and got nervous. They were growing too fast. Too many of them, too strong, too easy to imagine turning against him. So his answer wasn't to treat them better. It was to work them harder and, eventually, to try to kill their sons. This is a kingdom that runs its whole economy on people it has decided not to see as people. Bricks, not faces. Numbers, not names. And here's the strange part. God doesn't send his rescuer in from outside, some untouched hero riding in from another country. He raises him up right inside the palace of the very system that needs to come down. Moses will grow up eating at Pharaoh's table while his own people are eating dust in the brickyards. Moses sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. Something in him snaps. He looks one way, then the other way, making sure no one is watching. Then he kills the Egyptian and buries him in the sand. Let's be honest about what this is. This isn't a hero saving the day. It's a man acting on impulse, then hiding what he did. There's no trumpet blast here. Just sand, a shovel, and a secret. Here's something most people miss. The Hebrew word used for how Moses struck the Egyptian is the very same word used to describe how the Egyptian was striking the Hebrew slave in the first place. Same verb, same violence. Moses doesn't stop the violence, he just moves it around. He answers a blow with a bigger blow. This is not a clean turning point. There's no angel showing up to say it was okay. No voice from heaven excusing it. The text doesn't try to soften it, and we shouldn't either. Moses is a murderer now. Full stop. That's uncomfortable, and it should stay uncomfortable for a moment. Because if we rush past this, we miss what makes the rest of the story so surprising. Right now, Moses has no idea what's coming. He just knows one thing for certain. Someone is dead because of him, and there's no undoing it. The next day, Moses goes out again. He sees two Hebrews fighting each other. This time he tries to be the peacemaker, not the avenger. He steps in and asks the one at fault a simple question. The answer cuts deeper than any knife. Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian? Read that again. This isn't Pharaoh's police. This isn't a spy. This is one of his own people, someone from his own family, his own blood, saying it out loud in the open street. Moses hid the body. He checked left and right. He thought he was safe. But the exposure doesn't come from Egypt. It comes from Israel. The very people he risked everything to defend are the ones who turn on him first. And that's the twist most readers skip past. Before Pharaoh ever hears a word, Moses is already exposed by his own. Then it spreads. Word reaches the palace. Pharaoh hears, and now he wants Moses dead. In the space of 2 short verses, Moses falls from Prince of Egypt to wanted man, running for his life with nothing but the clothes on his back. Think about where that leaves him. Rejected by the people he tried to save. Hunted by the family that raised him. No home, no title, no plan. This is Moses at rock bottom. Moses runs. He ends up in Midian, far from Egypt, far from anyone who knows his name. He sits down by a well, tired and alone. 7 sisters come to draw water for their father's flock. Rough shepherds show up and shove the girls aside. And Moses, the same man who just killed someone, stands up and fights for total strangers. Here's the detail almost nobody catches. When the sisters run home, they tell their father, an Egyptian man delivered us. An Egyptian. That's the very identity tied to the man Moses killed. He's not even claiming his own name anymore. He's hiding. And yet the instinct to save people is still there, still working, even when he's got nothing left, no title, no home, no name he can use. This is not God patting Moses on the back for murder. The consequences are still real. He's a fugitive. He's alone. Nothing about that day gets erased. But something else is happening underneath it. God is keeping something alive in Moses. That pull to step in, to protect, to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. He's not using it yet. He's just keeping it. And this scene fits its world closely. Midian in this era sat along real trade and herding routes, where wells were shared, guarded, and fought over. Exactly the kind of place where a stranger defending a flock would matter enough to be remembered. There's no burning bush the next week. No angel shows up to explain things. Moses runs from that body in the sand, and what follows isn't a quick rescue. It's 40 years of silence. 40 years of dust, sheep, and nobody knowing his name. Count what he lost. His title as a prince of Egypt, gone. His nation, the only home he'd known, gone. His sense that his life meant something, gone. And decades, not days, Decades of his one life, spent watching animals in a land nobody back home could find on a map. Here's a detail people miss. Moses doesn't spend those years scheming his way back to power. He doesn't plot a return. He gets married. He has a son. He builds a family in Midian instead of building a comeback. That's not a man plotting his revenge. That's a man who thinks his story is basically over. And here's the core of it. God doesn't erase what Moses did. He doesn't rewind the sand or bring the body back to life. God works patiently inside the consequences, not around them. Remember the brickyard from earlier, that grinding, crushing system Moses grew up watching? He trades it for open wilderness. Wide sky, quiet, no overseers. And it's not in the palace, with all its power, that God finally speaks. It's out here, in the empty and forgotten place, that the voice finally comes. Let's walk back through it. Identity. Moses grew up caught between two worlds, a Hebrew raised in Pharaoh's house. Human moment. He saw his own people suffering and something in him broke. World. Egypt was a place built on cruelty, where a slave's life meant nothing. Breaking point. He killed a man and buried him in the sand, sure no one saw. Exposure. Someone had seen. His secret came out of his own mouth, from his own people. Turning point. He ran, and God met him in the silence of the wilderness anyway. Cost. 40 years of nothing that looked like anything, before the call ever came. Here's what I want you to hear. Wherever your sand is, the thing you buried, the thing you hoped no one would ever dig up, God isn't done with you. He wasn't done with Moses either. So here's something to actually do this week. Name one thing you've been carrying, one thing you've quietly decided disqualifies you from being used. Then tell one trusted person the true version of it, not the polished version. Stop carrying it alone. If this opened your eyes to something in a story you thought you already knew, subscribe for more of these overlooked chapters, hit like, and share it with someone who needs it. And wherever you are in your own wilderness season, however long it's lasted, may you know you are not forgotten. Not disqualified, not done,